The Brownlow Medal count is proudly brought to you by the new Holden Apollo. Gillette, the best a man can get. CUB, one of the world's great brewers. BP, on the move. And State Bank, we never forget it's your money.
A very good evening, everyone, from the ballroom of the Southern Cross Hotel through the Australian Television Network. A warm welcome to the counting of votes for the 1989 Brownlow Medal. Since last year's counts, we have, of course, had medals presented retrospectively to former runners-up, while tonight marks the medal's 62nd presentation. In 1988, it was the year of Gerard Healy, who won with 20 votes from Simon Madden and Jason Dunstall, both on 16. Tonight, well, who knows? To institute proceedings on an official level, ladies and gentlemen, would you welcome the Chairman of the VFL Commission, Mr. Ross Oakley.
Thank you, Peter. Good evening and welcome to the 1989 Brownlow Medal count. A special welcome to the Premier of Victoria, John Cain, and his wife, Nancy. May I also acknowledge the generosity of both Barry Fink, Managing Director of the Southern Cross, and the Australian Television Network for their kind support of the evening. Together with our VFL corporate sponsors, Carlton United Breweries, represented tonight by the Chief Executive of Elders Brewing Group, Mr. Peter Bartels, and his wife Marilyn. Tonight's gathering is a properly constituted meeting of the VFL with all club directors or their alternates present. I would like now to introduce the members of the counting team. Mr. Dean Moore, VFL Administrative Executive and VMFL Secretary, Mr. Don Hanley, VFL Administration Manager, Mr. Alan Swab, VFL Executive Commissioner, Mr. Gary Clayton, VFL Park Manager, Mr. Mark Patterson, VFL Administration Executive and VCFL Secretary. In accordance with VFL Rule 19, at the conclusion of each match, the two field umpires conferred and recorded their idea of the three fairest and best players in each of the 154 home and away matches played. The votes were then sealed in an envelope marked Brownlow Medal. In the case of two or more players receiving an equal number of votes, each shall be declared the joint winner, and each of these players shall be awarded a Brownlow Medal. Any player who has been found guilty of an offence in a home and away match, except for a time-wasting offence, shall be ineligible to receive the medal. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Ross. Now, we'd like to ask the armour guards and representatives of Touche Ross to bring forward the container that has the votes so that they can be opened on the counting table. Touche Ross Chartered Accountants have supervised the removal of the votes cast by the umpires from the vault at Armour Guard, where they have been accumulating throughout the 1989 season. Touche Ross have satisfied themselves that the correct number of votes has been cast and that they were intact on removal from the vault. Touche Ross partners Paul Shannon and Brian Jamieson are here tonight and have kept the votes under their scrutiny until the vault was opened earlier this evening. And so the way is therefore cleared for the count to begin. And we'll be back for the counting of the first votes in just a moment. back to the Australis room of the Southern Cross Hotel. 154 matches played in season 1989. Let's begin with the highlights now of round one.
Round one saw 4 upset results and a record 12 reports. The season opened on Friday night in Perth, and Essendon bounced back after a dismal pre-season to inflict on the Eagles their first loss ever at the Wacker. 50,000 people watched Collingwood get off to a good start and down the Premier's Hawthorn by 10 points at VFL Park. It was Lee Matthews' first official win against his old team. Carlton made its worst start since 1978, suffering a demoralising 59-point loss to Footscray at Princes Park. In Footscray's great start, Subiaco recruit John Georgiades kicked 8 goals. Tony Lockett kicked 9 in a flying start by St Kilda, who downed the Bears by 39 points. Panasonic Cup premiers Melbourne had to rely on first gamer Stephen Tingay to snatch a thrilling last-minute win over Fitzroy. And North Melbourne shocked Geelong by 2 points, although a brilliant game by Jim Cracker was tarnished with a report. The Swans slogged through the slush in Sydney to beat Richmond.
Round one. West Coast Eagles versus Essendon. West Coast, Al Keane, 1 vote. West Coast, P. Scott, 2 votes. Essendon, G. Anderson, 3 votes. Collingwood versus Hawthorn. Hawthorn, P. Swab, 1 vote. Collingwood, D. Barwick, 2 votes. Collingwood, P. Dacos, 3 votes. Carlton versus Footscray. Footscray, T. McGuinness, 1 vote. Footscray, T. Wallace, 2 votes. Footscray, J. Georgiades, 3 votes. Melbourne versus Fitzroy. Melbourne, A. Johnson, 1 vote. Fitzroy, R. Osborne, 2 votes. Melbourne, S. Newport, 3 votes. St Kilda versus Brisbane Bears. St Kilda, S. Lowe, 1 vote. St Kilda, F. Coghlan, 2 votes. St Kilda, A. Lockett, 3 votes. Sydney versus Richmond. Richmond, D. Waitman, 1 vote. Sydney, G. Williams, 2 votes. Sydney, D. Murphy, 3 votes. North Melbourne versus Geelong. Geelong, D. Cameron, 1 vote. North Melbourne, I. Fairley, 2 votes. North Melbourne, D. Harris, 3 votes.
Once again in round 2, it was Tony Lockett who stole the limelight. The St Kilda spearhead booted 10-7 as the Saints edged out the Blues in a thriller at Moorabbin. Reigning title holders Hawthorn shrugged off North after half-time at VFL Park to win by 69 points, while the Demons found the going tough at Windy Hill, going down by 26. Upset of the round was the tigerish effort of Richmond, who blitzed first-round winners Footscray by 68 points at the cricket ground, with Jeff Hogg ticking 7 goals. Ross Lyon and Paul Roos each bagged 4 at Princes Park as Fitzroy surprised Collingwood, while the Cats found their claws at home to tear the Eagles to pieces. And the Bears notched their first win of the season at Carrara over the Swans.
Round 2. North Melbourne versus Hawthorn. Hawthorn, A. Collins, 1 vote. Hawthorn, J. Morrissey, 2 votes. Hawthorn, J. Platten, 3 votes. Richmond versus Footscray. Richmond, C. Lambert, 1 vote. Richmond, J. Hogg, 2 votes. Richmond, A. McKellar, 3 votes. Fitzroy versus Collingwood. Collingwood, P. Dacos, 1 vote. Fitzroy, P. Roos, 2 votes. Fitzroy, J. Blakey, 3 votes. St Kilda versus Carlton. Carlton, D. Glascott, 1 vote. St Kilda, T. Lockett, 2 votes. St Kilda, B. Bowie, 3 votes. Essendon versus Melbourne. Essendon, T. Watson, 1 vote. Melbourne, A. Johnson, 2 votes. Essendon, P. Vanderhaar, 3 votes. Brisbane Bears versus Sydney Swans. Brisbane, B. Phillips, 1 vote. Brisbane, S. McIver, 2 votes. Brisbane, R. Merritt, 3 votes. Geelong versus West Coast. Geelong, D. Russell, 1 vote. Geelong, G. Hocking, 2 votes. Geelong, P. Couch, 3 votes.
The Hawks unfurled their premiership pennant and then beat old rivals Essendon with a 14-goal second half, with Robert Di-Domenico back to his rampaging best. Tony Lockett kicked 8 more goals on Gary Pert, but the Saints' bubble burst when a revitalised Matt Rendell led Fitzroy to a 10-point win. North Melbourne came from behind in the last quarter to shock Footscray at the Western Oval, with John Georgiadis again amongst the goals. West Australian forwards Darren Bennett and Earl Spalding helped the Demons bring Richmond back to earth, the Tigers managing just 1 goal to half-time. Peter Dacos had 39 possessions to continue his great start to the season as the Magpies mauled the Bears at Victoria Park. Geelong ran over Carlton in the second half to leave the Blues winless after 3 rounds, the first time since 1954. Also without a win were the Eagles, beaten by the Swans in Sydney when rover Barry Mitchell gathered 42 possessions in his first game for the year.
Round 3. St Kilda versus Fitzroy. Fitzroy, R. Osborne, 1 vote. St Kilda, T. Lockett, 2 votes. St Kilda, N. Winmar, 3 votes. Hawthorn versus Essendon. Hawthorn, R. Di-Domenico, 1 vote. Essendon, T. Danaher, 2 votes. Hawthorn, J. Platten, 3 votes. Collingwood versus Brisbane. Collingwood, H. Shepherd, 1 vote. Collingwood, P. Dacos, 2 votes. Collingwood, D. Barwick, 3 votes. Footscray versus North Melbourne. North Melbourne, M. Martin, 1 vote. North Melbourne, J. Cracker, 2 votes. Footscray, J. Georgiadis, 3 votes. Richmond versus Melbourne. Richmond, A. McKellar, 1 vote. Melbourne, S. Stretch, 2 votes. Melbourne, E. Spalding, 3 votes. Sydney versus West Coast. Sydney, T. Thrip, 1 vote. Sydney, G. Williams, 2 votes. Sydney, M. Eustace, 3 votes. Geelong versus Carlton. Geelong, R. Scott, 1 vote. Geelong, P. Couch, 2 votes. Geelong, G. Hocking, 3 votes.
Round 4 began under lights at the MCG on Friday night with the uninspiring clash between Melbourne and the Brisbane Bears. Demon forward Earl Spalding kicked 4 goals as his team recorded a 26-point victory. At Victoria Park, full forwards Tony Lockett and Brian Taylor battled it out for honours. Taylor kicked 9 to Lockett's 5 as the Magpies stormed to a big win. Sydney, North Melbourne and Hawthorn all recorded solid wins, while Geelong battled hard all day to overcome Footscray, and Essendon won a high-scoring affair against Carlton at Princes Park on Anzac Day.
Round 4. Melbourne versus Brisbane. Brisbane, R. Lester Smith, 1 vote. Melbourne, E. Spalding, 2 votes. Melbourne, J. Steins, 3 votes. Collingwood versus St Kilda. Collingwood, B. Taylor, 1 vote. Collingwood, D. Cloak, 2 votes. Collingwood, P. Dacos, 3 votes. Fitzroy versus Sydney. Sydney, B. Mitchell, 1 vote. Sydney, G. Williams, 2 votes. Sydney, M. Bays, 3 votes. North Melbourne versus West Coast. North Melbourne, M. Martin, 1 vote. North Melbourne, W. Swass, 2 votes. North Melbourne, P. German, 3 votes. Footscray versus Geelong. Footscray, M. Hogg, 1 vote. Geelong, M. Bairstow, 2 votes. Geelong, G. Hocking, 3 votes. Richmond versus Hawthorn. Richmond, M. Mitchell, 1 vote. Hawthorn, J. Dunstall, 2 votes. Hawthorn, A. Collins, 3 votes. Carlton versus Essendon. Essendon, T. Antrobus, 1 vote. Carlton, M. Nailey, 2 votes. Essendon, G. O'Donnell, 3 votes.
Well, some interesting vote getters in the first 4 rounds, and some of the favourites not polling as well as perhaps we would have expected. We'll take a break, back with the counting of votes from round 5 in just a moment.
Yeah, the house across the road. 150,000 it went for.
What? That done? How much?
150?
What's that make us worth?
Enough to start looking for a bigger place.
Why? We've got all the room we need here.
And a very nice room it is too, Graham.
If you have already proved yourself with your first home loan, talk to State Bank about your second.
I couldn't stand it again. Appointments with the bank manager, applications in triplicate. They just don't like parting with their money.
They're not the only ones.
At State Bank, we won't send you to the end of the queue. Anyone who's already done what you've done deserves better.
Okay. First we'll find a house, then we'll talk to the bank.
The 89 Brownlow Medal is coming to you on the Australian Television Network from the Australis Room at Melbourne's Southern Cross Hotel. Peter Dacos, our current leader, with 9 votes as we go now to the highlights of round 5.
Hawthorn consolidated on top of the ladder and sent Carlton to the bottom with a 54-point win. Footscray lost their 4th game in a row when Melbourne hung on to win by 11 points. Geelong squandered a 32-point lead at three-quarter time and lost to Fitzroy by a point when Kevin Caton scored a poster in the dying seconds. Essendon took 3 quarters to shrug off St Kilda, with Tim Watson brilliant with 32 possessions. Richmond and North Melbourne kicked 46 goals between them in a goal feast at the MCG. Goals were harder to come by on another wet day in Sydney when the Swans beat Collingwood by 11 points. And Stephen Jackson kicked 6 goals in his VFL debut to lift the Eagles to their first win of the season against the Bears.
Round 5. Hawthorn versus Carlton. Hawthorn, J. Dunstall, 1 vote. Hawthorn, D. Anderson, 2 votes. Hawthorn, G. Ayres, 3 votes. Melbourne versus Footscray. Melbourne, D. Flintoff, 1 vote. Melbourne, D. Hughes, 2 votes. Melbourne, S. Newport, 3 votes. Fitzroy versus Geelong. Geelong, R. Scott, 1 vote. Geelong, M. Bairstow, 2 votes. Fitzroy, W. Matera, 3 votes. Essendon versus St Kilda. Essendon, M. Long, 1 vote. Essendon, S. Madden, 2 votes. St Kilda, M. Dyer, 3 votes. North Melbourne versus Richmond. North Melbourne, W. Swass, 1 vote. Richmond, B. Bauer, 2 votes. Richmond, D. Honeybun, 3 votes. Sydney versus Collingwood. Collingwood, D. Mullane, 1 vote. Sydney, G. Healy, 2 votes. Sydney, D. Carroll, 3 votes. Brisbane versus West Coast. West Coast, M. Brennan, 1 vote. West Coast, C. Mainwaring, 2 votes. West Coast, D. Lamb, 3 votes.
On an ideal day for football, nearly 70,000 fans turned up at the MCG to see Collingwood turn the tables on their long-time rivals Melbourne by 60 points. At Princes Park, Hawthorn staged the comeback of the decade to climb back from a 56-point deficit just before half-time to tip out the Cats by 8 points. The Saints stunned the Sydney Swans at Moorabbin in the turn-up of the round, while the Blues notched their first win of the season at the expense of Richmond. The Lions held up the West Coast Eagles under lights at the Wacker, while North overcame a lack of height to shoot down the Bombers' tall timber. At a wet Carrara, the Bears won their second match of the season against the luckless Bulldogs.
Round 6, North Melbourne versus Essendon. North Melbourne, J. Cracker, 1 vote. North Melbourne, M.R. Seary, 2 votes. North Melbourne, W. Swass, 3 votes. Brisbane versus Footscray. Footscray, T. McGuinness, 1 vote. Brisbane, B. Phillips, 2 votes. Brisbane, D. Bain, 3 votes. St Kilda versus Sydney. St Kilda, S. Lowe, 1 vote. St Kilda, D. Grant, 2 votes. St Kilda, G. Cunningham, 3 votes. Hawthorn versus Geelong. Hawthorn, G. Ayres, 1 vote. Hawthorn, J. Dunstall, 2 votes. Geelong, G. Exel, 3 votes. Melbourne versus Collingwood. Collingwood, C. Kelly, 1 vote. Collingwood, D. Cloak, 2 votes. Collingwood, D. Barwick, 3 votes. Carlton versus Richmond. Carlton, C. Bradley, 1 vote. Richmond, B. Bauer, 2 votes. Carlton, S. Kernahan, 3 votes. West Coast versus Fitzroy. Fitzroy, D. Kapler, 1 vote. Fitzroy, G. Pert, 2 votes. Fitzroy, R. Osborne, 3 votes.
Sydney turned on another wet one, but it didn't bother North Melbourne, who won a traditionally close game between the two by 9 points. Craig Lambert celebrated his Victorian selection with another strong display to help Richmond overcome the Eagles by just 2 points. Geelong, who the week before had kicked the highest ever losing score, continued the spree and kicked 35 goals 18 against St Kilda, 10 points short of the record score. Melbourne continued their recent edge over Carlton to hang on for a 10-point win. Collingwood wingman Gavin Brown took an amazing 15 marks to inspire the Woods' 28-point win over Footscray. For the second week running, Hawthorn kicked 17 goals after half-time. This time, Tony Hall led the destruction of Fitzroy. Essendon travelled to the Gold Coast and beat the Bears without rising to great heights.
Round 7, Sydney versus North Melbourne. Sydney, D. Carroll, 1 vote. North Melbourne, M. Larkin, 2 votes. Sydney, G. Williams, 3 votes. Richmond versus West Coast. West Coast, C. Lewis, 1 vote. Richmond, C. Lambert, 2 votes. Richmond, D. Honeybun, 3 votes. Melbourne versus Carlton. Carlton, M. Hanna, 1 vote. Melbourne, G. Lyon, 2 votes. Melbourne, E. Spalding, 3 votes. Collingwood versus Footscray. Collingwood, M. Gaffer, 1 vote. Collingwood, J. Manson, 2 votes. Collingwood, C. Kelly, 3 votes. Hawthorn versus Fitzroy. Hawthorn, Tony Hall, 1 vote. Hawthorn, C. Langford, 2 votes. Hawthorn, A. Collins, 3 votes. Geelong versus St Kilda. Geelong, M. Bairstow, 1 vote. Geelong, P. Couch, 2 votes. Geelong, A. Buse, 3 votes. Brisbane versus Essendon. Brisbane, D. Bain, 1 vote. Essendon, A. Ezard, 2 votes. Essendon, D. Williams, 3 votes.
Cliffhangers were the feature of round 8. 3 teams won by 3 points or less. At the Western Oval, Footscray finally came through, but only just. After trailing by 21 points at the main change, the Dogs hit back. Although way off target, they scraped home to win by a measly point. At Moorabbin, St Kilda continued their unbeaten stint at home. A fine first quarter start and 9 goals from Tony Lockett set up the victory. Although they almost let it slip through their fingers, they beat North by 3 points. And on Sunday at Subiaco Oval, Melbourne performed a Houdini trick. The West Coast Eagles led at every turn, but at the final one, the Demons stormed up. They won by 2 points.
Round 8. Carlton versus Collingwood. Collingwood, G. Krasiska, 1 vote. Carlton, L. O'Sullivan, 2 votes. Collingwood, P. Hawke, 3 votes. St Kilda versus North Melbourne. St Kilda, P. Harding, 1 vote. St Kilda, S. Lowe, 2 votes. St Kilda, T. Lockett, 3 votes. Footscray versus Fitzroy. Footscray, D. Hawkins, 1 vote. Fitzroy, B. Stevens, 2 votes. Footscray, S. Wind, 3 votes. Hawthorn versus Sydney. Hawthorn, G. Deere, 1 vote. Hawthorn, D. Pritchard, 2 votes. Hawthorn, C. Whitman, 3 votes. Essendon versus Richmond. Richmond, A. McKellar, 1 vote. Essendon, T. Antrobus, 2 votes. Essendon, A. Danaher, 3 votes. Geelong versus Brisbane. Geelong, D. Morgan, 1 vote. Geelong, G. Ablett, 2 votes. Geelong, N. Bruns, 3 votes. West Coast versus Melbourne. Melbourne, J. Steins, 1 vote. West Coast, J. Anir, 2 votes. West Coast, G. McKenna, 3 votes.
So former winner Tony Lockett, our current leader in the 89 Brownlow, 8 rounds down, 14 to go. We'll take a break from the counting, back at the Southern Cross in just a moment.
Steve lives in his own world. When we go away, he and I go fishing, but he can't even concentrate on that.
Here comes dinner. How about a beer, mate?
The ladies love him, though. The guys rib me, reckon I'm the cute one, and George with his flashing teeth. But whatever it is, Steve's the one who's got it. In the evening, we have a shower and go up to the pub. It's great. We know most of them up there. It's always the same. Robert's playing Purple Rain over and over on the jukebox. We all love going up there, even Steve.
Australia loves the Fosters, and you know what it does too. There's nothing like a Fosters. There's nothing like a Fosters. There's nothing like a Fosters, that's true.
Thought any more about the new car?
Have a look at the price of this.
Well,
Well, it's got to be big enough.
and safe and reliable and economical, I know. We're talking about the new Holden Apollo, right?
Yeah, well, I did go and look at it. 2 litre, twin cam, heaps of room.
And it's a Holden.
Yeah, it's right on the money.
I can make your home secure.
Wow.
But how would you find me?
I can print these for you, but how would you find me?
I could teach you this, but how would you find me?
If you got the business, I got the sign. How would you find me?
It's easy. Open up the yellow pages. We're waiting for your call. This book's got it all. Just say hello, yellow pages every time.
Painting a vase of flowers isn't all that difficult, but some do it considerably better than others. It's the same with insurance companies. MMI Insurance. When you appreciate quality, you'll appreciate the difference.
Come on, Dermy, get in them. They're waiting out there.
I don't know what colour to wear.
Oh, look, try the pink.
How can I wear pink with brown?
Silly Dermy, you look lovely in pink.
I didn't think you'd ever switch. Things change, don't they? Mate, if it was any bigger, it'd need more wheels. It'll do. That V6, got more grunt? Like chalk and cheese. What about Kate? She like it? She loves it.
The 1989 Brownlow, Tony Lockett is our current leader on 10 votes from Greg Williams and Peter Dacos, both on 9. And speaking of 9, let's go now to the highlights of round 9 in 89.
The round began under lights at the MCG with North Melbourne handing out a 94-point hiding to the Brisbane Bears. It was a round, though, when forwards were in the news. Gary Ablett destroyed the Tigers on his own with a record-breaking bag of 14 goals, as the Cats again booted 25 or more for the 4th week in a row. Tony Lockett saw his chances of breaking the 150-goal barrier destroyed when he copped 4 weeks for this indiscretion on Guy McKenna, while Dermot Brereton got 3 for striking T. Wallace. Brian Taylor and Billy Duckworth entertained over 71,000 at VFL Park for this pas de deux just before half-time, and was so good everyone wanted to join in.
Round 9. North Melbourne versus Brisbane. North Melbourne, W. Swass, 1 vote. North Melbourne, P. Bryce, 2 votes. North Melbourne, B. Ellison, 3 votes. Essendon versus Collingwood. Essendon, D. Williams, 1 vote. Essendon, A. Underwood, 2 votes. Essendon, T. Watson, 3 votes. Richmond versus Geelong. Geelong, P. Couch, 1 vote. Geelong, G. Hocking, 2 votes. Geelong, G. Ablett, 3 votes. Carlton versus Fitzroy. Carlton, C. Bradley, 1 vote. Carlton, T. Elvin, 2 votes. Carlton, J. Madden, 3 votes. St Kilda versus West Coast. St Kilda, D. Rice, 1 vote. St Kilda, P. Harding, 2 votes. St Kilda, S. Lowe, 3 votes. Sydney versus Melbourne. Melbourne, G. Lyon, 1 vote. Melbourne, B. Lovett, 2 votes. Melbourne, J. Steins, 3 votes. Footscray versus Hawthorn. Footscray, T. McGuinness, 1 vote. Hawthorn, J. Platten, 2 votes. Hawthorn, M. Tuck, 3 votes.
Round 10 was highlighted by one of the shocks of the season. The Brisbane Bears toppling Carlton at Princes Park. Brad Hardy booted 9 goals and Warwick Kappa 4. 3 days later, Blues coach Robert Walls was sacked and replaced by Alex Jesselenko. Geelong threw down the challenge to Hawthorn by thrashing the highly fancied Collingwood by 66 points. Gary Ablett was again in sensational form, kicking 7 goals for the Cats. And while Geelong did it easily, Hawthorn struggled to beat the West Coast Eagles in Perth. The home side hit the front late in the final quarter, but the Never Say Die Hawks fought back to snatch a 5-point victory.
Round 10. North Melbourne versus Melbourne. Melbourne, G. Healy, 1 vote. North Melbourne, M. Martin, 2 votes. Melbourne, S. Phoebe, 3 votes. St Kilda versus Richmond. Richmond, T. Powell, 1 vote. St Kilda, D. Rice, 2 votes. St Kilda, J. Daniels, 3 votes. Footscray versus Sydney. Sydney, T. Thripp, 1 vote. Footscray, D. Hawkins, 2 votes. Footscray, S. Atkins, 3 votes. Essendon versus Fitzroy. Essendon, S. Madden, 1 vote. Essendon, M. Harvey, 2 votes. Essendon, D. Williams, 3 votes. Collingwood versus Geelong. Collingwood, D. Mullane, 1 vote. Geelong, M. Schultz, 2 votes. Geelong, G. Ablett, 3 votes. Carlton versus Brisbane. Carlton, W. Blackwell, 1 vote. Brisbane, Brad Hardy, 2 votes. Brisbane, S. McIver, 3 votes. West Coast versus Hawthorn. West Coast, G. McKenna, 1 vote. Hawthorn, G. Deere, 2 votes. Hawthorn, G. Buckenara, 3 votes.
Well, thank you, Ross. Well, after a season often described as the wettest in many years, our contenders for Mark of the Year, I guess, take on a rather varied look in season 1989. From the classic skyscraper to the miraculous to the great wet weather catch, season 1989 saw them all.
Years of driving can take a terrible toll on your car. Your windshield cracks, the paint chips, and there's always the inevitable ding or two. But thanks to the remarkable technology in new BP Visco 2000 motor oil, there is a part of your car you can protect, your engine. Use new BP Visco 2000 and your engine just may outlast your car. BP, on the move.
Thought any more about the new car?
Have a look at the price of this.
Well?
Well, it's got to be big enough.
And safe and reliable and economical, I know. We're talking about the new Holden Apollo, right?
Yeah, well, I did go and look at it. 2 litre, twin cam, heaps of room.
And it's a Holden.
Yeah, it's right on the money.
The difference between the black and the red. usually comes down to outside pressures, squeezing management from all directions. But you don't have to be up against it to hire yourself some muscle. The tough new breed, trained in the hard realities of modern financial pressure, committed to help you push through with profit at the other end. New problems, new opportunities, new breed. CPA.
I see your true colors shining through. See your true colors shining through.
Kodacolor Gold Film is so advanced it captures accurate, true-to-life colours every time.
Your true colors, your true colors.
For true colours, there's no other colour as good as gold.
So good in your cakes and your biscuits.
So good.
So good in your puddings and pies.
So good.
So good on your cereal. So good as a drink. So good, here's the reason why. So good is so good.
No cholesterol, no lactose.
Now that's enough reason to try Sanitarium. So good.
Good evening, Jennifer Kite. Geelong has had its grand final stocks boosted with the withdrawal of a striking charge against Gary Hocking. The decision was made after the viewing of a video replay of the incident involving Essendon's Darren Williams. That's the news to now from me. Good night.
They're the ones to watch. Glenn Taylor and Jennifer Kite bring you 7 nightly news. Now 6 o'clock weeknights on 7.
The 89 Brownlow continues from the Australis room at Melbourne Southern Cross Hotel. We're nearly halfway through the count. I guess an appropriate time to check the leaderboard now, and a very interesting stage it is. And our current leader is Tony Lockett, who of course is ineligible to win the Brownlow this year. From one of the outsiders, Gary Hocking from Geelong, also on 10 votes. Peter Dacos of Collingwood has 9. 2 ineligible players, Williams and Barwick. From Spalding, Couch and Platten. A number of players on 8 votes. And Gary Ablett is another one of those also ineligible. From Collins, Schwass, Lowe, Steins, Williams, Georgiades and Newport. That's how they stand after round 10. As we go to continue the count now, let's check on the highlights from round number 11.
Alex Jesselenko took over from Robert Walls as coach of Carlton and inspired a 28-point win over the Swans in one of the most spiteful matches in years, which saw Greg Williams suspended for a total of 8 matches. The wet hit Melbourne with a vengeance on the Queen's birthday long weekend, and low-scoring matches were fought out in atrocious conditions, with Footscray, North Melbourne and Richmond recording victories. It was firm at Subiaco, where Collingwood bounced back from 2 defeats to beat the Eagles. An amazing crowd of 87,000 crammed the MCG on the Monday to see Geelong overcome the heavy going and thrash Essendon by 54 points. And Gary Lyon continued his top form as Melbourne avenged last year's grand final hiding by beating Hawthorn by 15 points. The Hawks' first loss since round 1.
Round 11. Sydney versus Carlton. Carlton, J. Dorotich, 1 vote. Sydney, M. Eustace, 2 votes. Carlton, J. Madden, 3 votes. St Kilda versus Footscray. Footscray, D. Collins, 1 vote. St Kilda, G. Fode, 2 votes. Footscray, D. Hawkins, 3 votes. Fitzroy versus North Melbourne. North Melbourne, D. Kickett, 1 vote. Fitzroy, M. Armstrong, 2 votes. North Melbourne, J. McCarthy, 3 votes. Richmond versus Brisbane. Richmond, C. Lambert, 1 vote. Brisbane, M. Campbell, 2 votes. Richmond, M. Knights, 3 votes. West Coast versus Collingwood. Collingwood, S. Morwood, 1 vote. Collingwood, M. Christian, 2 votes. Collingwood, M. Renstead, 3 votes. Hawthorn versus Melbourne. Hawthorn, G. Deere, 1 vote. Melbourne, S. Icehold, 2 votes. Melbourne, S. Newport, 3 votes. Geelong versus Essendon. Geelong, G. Hocking, 1 vote. Geelong, M. Bairstow, 2 votes. Geelong, N. Bruns, 3 votes.
Round 12 was literally a mudslinging exercise. The MCG in particular was atrocious. It was Geelong who coped best in the slop, destroying a bogged-down Melbourne, who scored just 2 goals for the afternoon. Gary Ablett would later front the tribunal for striking Gary Lyon in this match. The incident, which was missed by all umpires, would cost him a 3-week suspension. At Princes Park, the Blues made it 2 on the trot for Jezza, downing, or should it be drowning, North Melbourne by 11 points. And in another close one, Sydney ventured to Windy Hill and won, upsetting the Bombers at home by less than 1 straight kick.
Round 12. West Coast versus Footscray. West Coast, P. Sumich, 1 vote. West Coast, P. Scott, 2 votes. West Coast, G. McKenna, 3 votes. Collingwood versus Richmond. Richmond, M. Knights, 1 vote. Collingwood, P. Hawke, 2 votes. Collingwood, T. Shaw, 3 votes. St Kilda versus Hawthorn. St Kilda, D. Frawley, 1 vote. St Kilda, N. Winmar, 2 votes. Hawthorn, T. Hall, 3 votes. Melbourne versus Geelong. Geelong, M. Bairstow, 1 vote. Geelong, R. Scott, 2 votes. Geelong, P. Couch, 3 votes. Carlton versus North Melbourne. North Melbourne, J. Law, 1 vote. Carlton, P. Dean, 2 votes. Carlton, C. Bradley, 3 votes. Essendon versus Sydney. Sydney, M. Bays, 1 vote. Sydney, M. Neagle, 2 votes. Sydney, D. Murphy, 3 votes. Brisbane versus Fitzroy. Brisbane, D. Bain, 1 vote. Brisbane, Brad Hardy, 2 votes. Fitzroy, M. Armstrong, 3 votes.
Well, our leaders, of course, are often seen in the highlights on the news and on Sports World each week. What we're about to show you, I guess, not only features them, but some of the lesser lights of the year as well. I think I could quite safely say that TV Bloopers was a very successful program. And again, what we're about to see here would come up as the footy equivalent or the plays of the year.
Tony Antrobus, I'm sorry we have to interrupt this call. Your captain, Tim Watson, needs some help locating the coin so we can begin the plays of the year. One of the more unusual goals of the year came from Bomber record breaker Simon Madden, while this one from Mick Dwyer wasn't only unusual, it was freakish.
This could be the impossible goal. He's kicked it.
A strong contender for goal of the year is Gary Ablett, who scored this beauty against the Magpies. And as I said at the time,
here is the magician at work. He shoots towards goal. What more can you say?
Oh, come on, Danny. How can the man in white not be right? And Richmond's Peter Wilson was having trouble with his birds. He's obviously heavily into poultry. And now to Hollywood, the best actor of the year, Brian Wilson. Runner-up in the same category, Brian Wilson. On New Willow. One of the great tackles of the year was applied by Geelong's Andrew Hughes on captured lion Graham Osborne, while one of the more unfortunate incidents, Trevor Barker just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And who was in the wrong here? And now to some of the year's big shirt fronts. First up, Merv Neagle and Dale Waitman. A Brownlow clash, Robert Dipierre Domenico and Greg Williams. And then there was this one from the second semi-final, Dermot Brereton and Paul Vanderhaar. Football has a habit of producing rumours. Now remember, the camera doesn't lie. And Neville Crowe, you are the president of Tigerland. And then there was the story linking Simon Madden and Nicky Winmar. Mind you, they had nothing on Dermot Brereton and Murray Rance. Maybe it was the glow from Carrara's new multi-million-dollar light setup that got their minds wandering. Or was it simply the romantic afterglow from the hurricane lamp up above? After all, Hurricane Hugo had nothing on Dermy.
holding over, 'cause it goes real quick. Gotta get a holding over, never look so slick. Gotta get a holding over, the car I love. It's got a twin cam donk and all the stuff you want. Gotta get a holding over, it's the car you love. You're looking sharp, you're looking good. You've come so far, and we know how to make the most of who you are. Father to son, it's what we've always done.
Gillette Contour Plus with lubricating strip for the best a man can get.
The best a man can get.
Where do millions of jets, helicopters, planes, trains and trucks go when they're low on fuel? The same place you do. BP. BP. On the move.
If you're in business, you want advertising that works. Melbourne Big Survey phones are monitoring results in businesses like Custom Tone Kitchens, whose results were immediate. Over 100 calls in 76 days. Paul Agnew placed ads in 2 classifications and says they've performed well beyond expectations. Over 30 calls a week. Is it any wonder Mike Scott calls the Melbourne Big the blue chip directory? Make sure that Melbourne Big is working for your business. Phone right now on 6464 666.
You got it when it comes to shopping.
We're gonna get you.
Prices like these will get you. McCain pizzas 2 for only $5, and noon pies or pasties 4 for $2.
SSW, you've got me.
Twin packs of Smith's, Lights and Samboy chips for $1.99, and Weston's Chocky Biggies are just 99 cents.
SSW,
You've got me.
Who is he?
That could be anybody. Do you really believe he's lost his memory?
Can he remember in time to save his family?
He's a good husband and a loving father.
Your husband is a man whose past life is buried.
Or will his family need saving from him?
Very careful.
You're with someone right now, aren't you? Or is it a trap?
Time bomb.
I want this end.
It was you.
The truth.
Richard Widmark, Keith Carradine, Kathleen Quinlan in Blackout. Wednesday on 7.
The 89 Brownlow count is into the second half of the season. At this stage of the evening, let's check the team boards now and see how the players are faring in your favourite team. First up, the Brisbane Bears, and leading the count there, 2 players, Scotty McIver and David Bain, from a former Brownlow Medal winner in Brad Hardy. From the Bears, we go to Carlton, and Justin Madden is the leader at Princes Park with 6 votes. Craig Bradley has 5, Steve Kernahan, the captain, and one of the favourites has 3. At Collingwood, Peter Dacos was a tearaway leader early, still on 9 votes from the ineligible Doug Barwick, who has 8. Paul Hawke has 5 votes. From David Cloak, who has 4. He always seems to poll well. Essendon, Daisy Williams has 7 votes and is a clear leader at Windy Hill. From Tim Watson, one of the favourites for the medal, only on 4 votes, not polling well in the first half of the season. To Fitzroy and Richard Osborne, who suffered a bad knee injury later in the year. Their leader from Matthew Armstrong, Osborne 6, and Armstrong on 5 votes. To Footscray, John Georgiades, a great start to the year on 6 votes. Doug Hawkins also on 6. Scotty Wine has 3 with Tony McGuinness. At Geelong, and one of the outsiders in the field, Gary Hocking. You heard a charge against him today, taken out before he even went to the tribunal. He has 11 votes from one of the favourites, Paul Couch, also on 11. The Cats polling well. At Hawthorn, former winner John Clatton is the leader at Glenferrie Oval. From Andy Collins, who has 7 votes, and one of the favourites, Jason Dunstall, still on 5. At Melbourne, Steve Newport has 9 votes, polling exceptionally well. From Earl Spalding, who has 8, and again a player expected to do well, Jimmy Steins on 7. At North Melbourne, Wayne Schross, former winner of the Morrish Medal, he has 7 votes from Michael Martin on 4. At Richmond, former Carlton player David Honeybun is the leader, from McKellar on 5, Bauer and Lambert, Knights also on 4 votes. And at St Kilda, Tony Lockett, ineligible, still on 10 votes, from Lowe and Winmar. Winmar expected to poll well, and he has 5. The Sydney Swans, former winner Greg Williams, ineligible at 89, still has 9 votes. From David Murphy on 6, Mark Eustace has 5. And finally, the West Coast Eagles, Guy McKenna is in our Channel 7 studios in Perth tonight. He has 7 votes from Phil Scott, who has 4. Now let's check the leaders in the 89 Brownlow. And currently it's a cat's quinella with Hocking and Couch at the head of the leaders board from Tony Lockett, 1 vote behind them. And Peter Dacos on 9, also with Greg Williams, and Steve Newport also on 9. On 8 votes, it's Barwick and Spalding. As we go over the page, also on that same total, Platten, Ablett and Bairstow, and the number of players also on 7. So plenty of likely prospects. Still hard to pick the winner of the 1989 Brownlow Medal. As I said, we're into the second half of the season. Let's recap now on what happened in round number 13.
Round 13 again produced more mud. At Windy Hill, Essendon and Footscray got bogged down for the lowest aggregate score since 1927. The Bombers' winning tally of 28 points was the second lowest winning score of all time. Princes Park was even worse as the Blues beat the Eagles for their 3rd on end, while the Magpies went 2 games clear in the 5 by downing North Melbourne by 52 points. Geelong made it 7 in succession by holding off the fast-finishing Swans by 8 points at the SCG.
Round 13, Hawthorn versus Brisbane. Hawthorn, P. Swab, 1 vote. Hawthorn, J. Platten, 2 votes. Hawthorn, P. Curran, 3 votes. Fitzroy versus Richmond. Richmond, B. Bauer, 1 vote. Fitzroy, M. Rendell, 2 votes. Fitzroy, J. Wind, 3 votes. St Kilda versus Melbourne. St Kilda, B. Gotch, 1 vote. St Kilda, N. Winmar, 2 votes. Melbourne, S. O'Dwyer, 3 votes. Collingwood versus North Melbourne. Collingwood, M. McGuan, 1 vote. Collingwood, G. Brown, 2 votes. Collingwood, P. Dacos, 3 votes. Essendon versus Footscray. Essendon, Terry Danaher, 1 vote. Footscray, D. Hawkins, 2 votes. Essendon, T. Watson, 3 votes. Carlton versus West Coast. West Coast, D. Lamb, 1 vote. Carlton, M. Nailey, 2 votes. Carlton, J. Madden, 3 votes. Sydney versus Geelong. Geelong, G. Hocking, 1 vote. Geelong, P. Couch, 2 votes. Sydney, M. Bays, 3 votes.
After a break for the State of Origin matches, Essendon defeated Carlton by 3 points, with Michael Long playing his best game for the Bombers. Jason Dunstall took 13 marks and kicked 7 goals in Hawthorn's 91-point win over the Eagles. Paul Couch had 43 touches for the Cats as they beat Fitzroy, winning only 1 of the 4 quarters. North Melbourne came from behind at half-time to thrash St Kilda by 10 goals at the MCG. And at the same ground, Richmond beat a disappointing Swans by 25 points. Gary Lyon continued to star for Melbourne as the Demons held off the Bears by 14 points at Carrara. And Footscray caused a surprise by thrashing Collingwood by 8 goals, keeping the Pies to just 1 goal after half-time.
Round 14, North Melbourne versus St Kilda. St Kilda, D. Grant, 1 vote. North Melbourne, J. Law, 2 votes. North Melbourne, M. Arceri, 3 votes. Essendon versus Carlton. Essendon, T. Watson, 1 vote. Essendon, M. Long, 2 votes. Carlton, C. Bradley, 3 votes. Hawthorn versus West Coast. Hawthorn, J. Dunstall, 1 vote. Hawthorn, D. Pritchard, 2 votes. Hawthorn, M. Tuck, 3 votes. Richmond versus Sydney. Sydney, D. Carroll, 1 vote. Richmond, T. Powell, 2 votes. Richmond, A. McKellar, 3 votes. Geelong versus Fitzroy. Fitzroy, M. Armstrong, 1 vote. Geelong, R. Scott, 2 votes. Geelong, P. Couch, 3 votes. Melbourne versus Brisbane. Melbourne, B. Wilson, 1 vote. Brisbane, S. McIver, 2 votes. Melbourne, S. Stretch, 3 votes. Footscray versus Collingwood. Footscray, M. Hanbury, 1 vote. Collingwood, P. Hawke, 2 votes. Footscray, T. McGuinness, 3 votes.
Biggest crowd of the round of 44,500 journeyed to VFL Park to see the 200th clash between old rivals Carlton and Collingwood. Rookie Simon Verbeek booted 4 goals as the Blues fell in by 6 points. The West Coast Eagles hit rock bottom as they could manage only 1 goal against the rampaging Bombers, who stormed to victory by 142 points. Ugly incidents marred the Hawks' 38-point win over Richmond, with Dermot Brereton being booked for flattening Des Ryan, while Gary Buckenara was given a 3-week holiday after Peter Zagaski was KO'd in the first 5 minutes of the game.
Round 15. Collingwood versus Carlton. Carlton, S. Kernahan, 1 vote. Collingwood, P. Hawke, 2 votes. Carlton, M. Hanna, 3 votes. Melbourne versus North Melbourne. Melbourne, S. Newport, 1 vote. North Melbourne, W. Swass, 2 votes. Melbourne, A. Johnson, 3 votes. Fitzroy versus St Kilda. Fitzroy, W. Matera, 1 vote. Fitzroy, G. Pert, 2 votes. St Kilda, D. Grant, 3 votes. Essendon versus West Coast. Essendon, B. Plain, 1 vote. Essendon, P. Vanderhaar, 2 votes. Essendon, T. Watson, 3 votes. Brisbane versus Geelong. Geelong, M. Bairstow, 1 vote. Geelong, A. Buse, 2 votes. Geelong, B. Stoneham, 3 votes. Sydney versus Footscray. Sydney, D. Ogier, 1 vote. Sydney, M. Eustace, 2 votes. Sydney, T. Thrip, 3 votes. Richmond versus Hawthorn. Richmond, D. Wakeman, 1 vote. Hawthorn, G. Deere, 2 votes. Hawthorn, J. Dunstall, 3 votes.
Round 16 produced the first draw of the season, the first win for the Brisbane Bears under new coach Paul Feltham, and the first loss for the high-flying Cats in 10 outings. The draw was at the Western Oval, Footscray coming from 2 goals down in the final quarter to catch Carlton, but not beat them. When the siren sounded, the teams were locked 6-10 apiece. At Carrara, a perfect start for the new Brisbane coach, the Bears holding on to beat St Kilda by 4 points. Just 3 points separated Melbourne and Geelong at VFL Park at the finish of a fine clash, the Demons causing the upset of the round.
Round 16. Geelong versus Melbourne. Melbourne, R. Jackson, 1 vote. Melbourne, S. O'Dwyer, 2 votes. Geelong, P. Couch, 3 votes. Richmond versus Essendon. Essendon, B. Plain, 1 vote. Essendon, T. Watson, 2 votes. Essendon, M. Thompson, 3 votes. Hawthorn versus Collingwood. Hawthorn, P. Curran, 1 vote. Hawthorn, J. Dunstall, 2 votes. Hawthorn, G. Deere, 3 votes. Carlton versus Footscray. Footscray, S. Wallace, 1 vote. Footscray, T. McGuinness, 2 votes. Carlton M. Hanna, 3 votes. Brisbane versus St Kilda. St Kilda D. Bain, 1 vote. That should be Brisbane. That's a correction. It should be Brisbane D. Bain, 1 vote. St Kilda D. Rice, 2 votes. Brisbane R. Merritt, 3 votes. West Coast versus Sydney. West Coast P. Sumich, 1 vote. West Coast P. Scott, 2 votes. West Coast G. McKenna, 3 votes. North Melbourne versus Fitzroy. Fitzroy A. Lynch, 1 vote. Fitzroy M. Gale, 2 votes. Fitzroy P. Burke, 3 votes.
And so in the middle of the year, a purple patch for Geelong's Paul Couch. He's the leader by 6 in the 89 Brownlow. Will return for the remaining votes in just a moment.
You're looking sharp, you're looking good. You've come so far, and we know how to make the most of who you are. Where the race is run, you're the champion. Gillette.
Gillette Contour Plus with lubricating strip for the best a man can get.
The best a man can get.
Thought any more about the new car?
Have a look at the price of this.
Well?
Well, it's got to be big enough.
And safe and reliable and economical, I know. We're talking about the new Holden Apollo, right?
Yeah, well, I did go and look at it. 2-litre, twin cam, heaps of room.
And it's a Holden.
Yeah, it's right on the money.
Get into it. Get into it. Get onto it. Get into it.
Be on the ball. Get behind your team and wear the official licensed VFL supporters gear. The complete range is now available at your game. Get into your team colours at the game shop and show your true colours. Look for the game shop marquee at your game and get right into it.
Impossible.
Sorry?
Impossible.
Impossible.
This is your age?
Yes.
No. No lines, no wrinkles. You are much younger, are we?
No.
What's the secret of younger-looking skin? Oil of Ulan twice a day. Fine lines are visibly reduced. Skin becomes soft and smooth.
You are French, perhaps?
No.
Your mother is French?
No.
Oil of Ulan twice a day. The secret of younger-looking skin.
It's been quite a night, we've had some fun, we must have danced with everyone, and now it's looking like that time of day.
The footy's over, they've all gone, you didn't even see who won, and now it's looking like that time of day.
It's looking like that time of day, that 4 and 20 time of day. It's looking like that 4 and 20 time of day. Okay! It's looking like that 4 and 20 time of day.
This is what's left of Dunnottar Castle. There's a local legend that it's haunted by a horrible headless ghost. They say he'll appear for a glass of Bell's Scotch. He can't resist Bell's. It's been blended with their finest single malt whiskies for 150 years. Come to think of it, he's not got a head for drink.
Bell's, blended with the finest single malt whiskies for 150 years.
Come on down to the greatest adult comedy compilation of all time and find out how 1 hour can end up so jam-packed with laughter. 8:30 Thursday, Passport Rewind on 7.
Next on Hinch.
A variety of chemical plants, a power station, even a sodium cyanide facility all feed into the air.
A dozen toxic chemical plants in the centre of a small coastal town. A chemical time bomb, putrid, next on Hinch.
Certainly the business end of the Brownlow at 89, only a few rounds to go. Paul Couch is still our leader. Let's go back now to season 89, some highlights of round number 17.
After 3 consecutive losses, Collingwood bounced back to inflict upon Geelong its second successive defeat, although Michael Gaper did come up a trifle worse for wear. The Blues brought Melbourne down to earth with a thud at Princes Park, while Fitzroy continued its push for the 5 with an effortless 12-goal victory over the Tigers. The West Coast moved off the bottom with their second successive win when they downed the inconsistent Footscray at the Western Oval.
Round 17. Richmond versus Fitzroy. Fitzroy, M. Gale, 1 vote. Fitzroy, M. Rendell, 2 votes. Fitzroy, P. Ruse, 3 votes. Hawthorn versus North Melbourne. Hawthorn, S. McGuinness, 1 vote. Hawthorn, G. Deere, 2 votes. Hawthorn, J. Platten, 3 votes. Geelong versus Collingwood. Collingwood, D. Robertson, 1 vote. Collingwood, P. Hawke, 2 votes. Collingwood, D. Mullane, 3 votes. St Kilda versus Essendon. Essendon. Bill Duckworth, 1 vote. St Kilda, R. Harvey, 2 votes. Essendon, B. Plain, 3 votes. Carlton versus Melbourne. Carlton, P. Dean, 1 vote. Carlton, M. Hanna, 2 votes. Carlton, S. Kernahan, 3 votes. Sydney versus Brisbane. Sydney, M. Neagle, 1 vote. Sydney, D. Carroll, 2 votes. Brisbane, R. Merritt, 3 votes. Footscray versus West Coast. West Coast, G. Miles, 1 vote. West Coast, C. Lewis, 2 votes. West Coast, G. McKenna, 3 votes.
Round 18 saw Fitzroy come from behind to beat Melbourne by 48 points. And in doing so, the Lions kept their finals hopes alive. Richard Osborne was sensational, kicking 11 goals. And the Brisbane Bears under lights at Carrara displayed their best form since entering the competition, with an 83-point win over North Melbourne. Roger Merritt was inspirational, with 6 goals, while Brad Hardy bagged 5. League leaders Hawthorn survived a late finish by the revitalised Carlton unit. The Hawks snuck home by just 5 points, and the Blues' final run came to an end.
Round 18. Carlton versus Hawthorn. Hawthorn, R. Di Domenico, 1 vote. Carlton, P. Meldrum, 2 votes. Hawthorn, J. Platten, 3 votes. Collingwood versus Sydney. Sydney, G. Williams, 1 vote. Collingwood, M. Christian, 2 votes. Sydney, B. Toohey, 3 votes. Fitzroy versus Melbourne. Melbourne, J. Steins, 1 vote. Fitzroy, P. Ruse, 2 votes. Fitzroy, R. Osborne, 3 votes. St Kilda versus Geelong. Geelong, M. Bairstow, 1 vote. St Kilda, P. Harding, 2 votes. St Kilda, N. Winmar, 3 votes. Brisbane versus North Melbourne. Brisbane, M. Kennedy, 1 vote. Brisbane, D. Bain, 2 votes. Brisbane, R. Merritt, 3 votes. West Coast versus Richmond. West Coast, D. Lamb, 1 vote. Richmond, A. McKellar, 2 votes. West Coast, C. Mainwaring, 3 votes. Footscray versus Essendon. Footscray, T. Wallace, 1 vote. Essendon, M. Long, 2 votes. Essendon, P. Hamilton, 3 votes.
Hawthorn won its 8th game in a row, and John Platten continued his excellent late-season form against the injury-weakened Melbourne. Fitzroy moved into the 5 for the first time this season with a last quarter burst against the Eagles. Collingwood dropped out of the 5 after a heartbreaking 2-point loss to North Melbourne when state player Wayne Schwass stood out. Tim Watson was brilliant again with 40 possessions in Essendon's big win over the Bears. But that was nothing compared to Greg Williams, whose game against St Kilda was unbelievable. An amazing 53 possessions and 6 goals out of the centre. In other matches, Geelong beat Footscray and Carlton was too good for Richmond.
Round 19. Richmond versus Carlton. Richmond, D. Ryan, 1 vote. Carlton, A. Gleeson, 2 votes. Carlton, S. Verbeek, 3 votes. Melbourne versus Hawthorn. Melbourne, S. Phoebe, 1 vote. Hawthorn, G. Ayres, 2 votes. Hawthorn, J. Platten, 3 votes. Fitzroy versus West Coast. Fitzroy, P. Ruse, 1 vote. Fitzroy, B. Stevens, 2 votes. Fitzroy, M. Armstrong, 3 votes. Essendon versus Brisbane. Essendon, D. Bailey, 1 vote. Essendon, B. Plain, 2 votes. Essendon, T. Watson, 3 votes. Geelong versus Footscray. Geelong, M. Schultz, 1 vote. Geelong, D. Flanagan, 2 votes. Footscray, Z. Zatzaris, 3 votes. Sydney versus St Kilda. St Kilda, M. Dwyer, 1 vote. Sydney, D. Murphy, 2 votes. Sydney, G. Williams, 3 votes. North Melbourne versus Collingwood. North Melbourne, W. Swass, 1 vote. North Melbourne, P. Bryce, 2 votes. Collingwood, P. Hawke, 3 votes.
19 rounds gone and 3 to go, and I think we could say the best are certainly hitting the Brownlow 89. Let's see how they might look to musical accompaniment.
You're simply the best. Better than all the rest. Better than anyone. Anyone I ever met. Ooh, I'm stuck on your heart. I hang on every word you say. Oh, tears apart. No, no, no.
only 3 rounds to go. The exciting part of the night. Let's check how your team's going. And first of all, the Brisbane Bears. And the leader at Carrara is Roger Merritt. He has 12 votes from former Sandover medalist David Bain on 8. Scotty McIver, former best and fairest winner at Fitzroy, has 7 votes, and former Brownlow medalist Brad Hardy has 4. From Brisbane we go to Carlton, and at Princes Park, Justin Madden is still the leader there. In fact, it's a tie with Madden and Mill Hanna. Craig Bradley has 6. Captain Steve Kernahan has 7 votes. Mark Navy 4. Peter Dean 3. At Collingwood, Paul Hawke is the Magpies leader with 14 votes. Peter Dacos, who earlier headed the count, has 12. Doug Barwick has 8 votes. Darren Mullane has 5. Cloak and Kelly 4 each. At Essendon, Timmy Watson still in with a magnificent chance of taking out the overall award. 16 votes from Darren Williams and Bradley Plain, each on 7. At Fitzroy, it's a tie there as well. Richard Osborne and Matthew Armstrong each have 9. Paul Roos 8 votes, and 3 players, Matera, Pert and Rendell, all on 4. At Footscray, Doug Hawkins and Tony McGuinness are the equal leaders on 8 votes. John Georgiades has 6. Scotty Wine, Scott Atkins and Terry Wallace all on 3. At Geelong, Paul Couch has 19 votes. Gary Hocking has 12 and Mark Bairstow has 10 votes. Gary Ablett, ineligible, has 8. At Hawthorn, likewise John Platten on 19 votes. What's going to happen over the last 3 rounds? Jason Dunstall and Greg Deere both on 11. At Melbourne, Steve Newport, who's headed their list pretty well most of the evening, on 10 votes. From Earl Spalding and Jimmy Steins, Alan Johnson has 6. At North Melbourne, Wayne Schwass, a tearaway leader there with 10 votes. From Mark Arceri on 5. Michael Martin has 4, likewise Paul Bryce. At Richmond, Alan McKellar, a leader by 4, 10 votes. David Honeybun has 6. Brendan Bauer has 5 votes. And at St Kilda, Tony Lockett's ineligible. Nicky Winmar on 10. The leaders at Moorabbin from Stuart Lowe on 7. The Sydney Swans, Greg Williams, a former Brownlow medalist, easily the leader there on 13 votes. David Murphy has 8 from a number of players on 7. And finally, the West Coast Eagles, Guy McKenna on 13 votes. From Phil Scott on 6, and Dwayne Lamb, Chris Mainwaring, both on 5. And Chris Mainwaring, I'll be speaking to in just a moment. And let's check the leaderboard. Paul Couch and John Platten, 2 of the favourites for the title, both on 19. Timmy Watson on 16, certainly a race between those 3. Paul Hawke on 14, Guy McKenna on 13, Greg Williams on 13, Peter Dacos 12, Gary Hocking on 12 votes. As we go over the page, Roger Merritt also on 12, from Dunstall and Deere, and then a number of players on 10 votes. Right, well, let's go over now to the studios of TVW Channel 7 in Perth, and we have with us Chris Mainwaring and Guy McKenna. Gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening, Peter. Good evening, Pete.
Well, are you polling as well as you would have expected? Chris, first of all.
Well, always surprised to get votes in the Brownlow and just happy the way things are going at the moment.
And what about you, Guy? I guess many people here considered you perhaps a good outside chance. Do you still think you can get a few more in the last 3 rounds? How did you play?
No, this is about me for the rest of the season, Pete. Injury set in about now, so I'll be very quiet.
All right, guys. Well, we hope you're enjoying the count over there, and all our viewers through TVW as well. And certainly at a pretty interesting stage with 3 rounds to go. And that brings us to round 20. We've got a tie between John Platten and Paul Couch. Let's see if we can separate them. Here we are, round 20.
It was a round of plane strikes and upsets. Geelong arrived in Perth at 4:30 a.m. Friday and copped a thumping from the Eagles. The Hawks likewise journeyed to Carrara and for the first time ever went down to an inspired Brisbane Bears team. Collingwood showed a return to form and moved back into the 5 with a 33-point demolition job on the Lions. While the thriller of the round was Carlton's 1-point win over St Kilda at Princes Park. Steve Kernahan booting 10 goals and Nicky Winmar 8. The Bulldogs' last home game for the year produced their biggest win for the season over Richmond, while the Bombers struggled most of the day against North Melbourne. Melbourne broke their 3-game losing streak by winning another close one against the Sydney Swans.
Round 20. West Coast versus Geelong. West Coast, P. Sumich, 1 vote. Geelong, A. Buse, 2 votes. West Coast, S. Jackson, 3 votes. Fitzroy versus Collingwood. Collingwood, G. Brown, 1 vote. Collingwood, T. Shaw, 2 votes. Collingwood, S. Morwood, 3 votes. Footscray versus Richmond. Footscray, D. Hawkins, 1 vote. Footscray, M. Ford, 2 votes. Footscray, S. Atkins, 3 votes. Melbourne versus Sydney. Melbourne, T. Campbell, 1 vote. Melbourne, J. Steins, 2 votes. Sydney, T. Thripp, 3 votes. Essendon versus North Melbourne. Essendon, D. Buick, 1 vote. North Melbourne, B. Allison, 2 votes. Essendon, G. Anderson, 3 votes. Carlton versus St Kilda. Carlton, A. Gleeson, 1 vote. Carlton, S. Kernahan, 2 votes. St Kilda, N. Winmar, 3 votes. Brisbane versus Hawthorn. Hawthorn, C. Mew, 1 vote. Brisbane, J. Gastev, 2 votes. Brisbane, S. McIver, 3 votes.
Round 21, and for season 89, the final 5 was cemented. The Lions were dumped from the finals race by the revitalised Brisbane Bears. Coach Rod Austin later slammed them as too tame. Upsets were the order of the weekend. St Kilda, thanks in part to a sparkling 9 goals from Nicky Winmar, thoroughly outclassed Melbourne. Sydney overran an injury-struck Essendon. And West Coast, on the up, beat Carlton at home by a massive 12 goals.
Round 21. Sydney versus Essendon. Essendon, T. Antrobus, 1 vote. Essendon, M. Long, 2 votes. Sydney, B. Toohey, 3 votes. Fitzroy versus Brisbane. Brisbane, M. Gibson, 1 vote. Brisbane, R. Merritt, 2 votes. Brisbane, D. Bain, 3 votes. Hawthorn versus Footscray. Footscray, T. McGuinness, 1 vote. Hawthorn, A. Collins, 2 votes. Hawthorn, J. Dunstall, 3 votes. Collingwood versus Richmond. Collingwood, G. Krasiska, 1 vote. Collingwood, D. Robertson, 2 votes. Collingwood, G. Brown, 3 votes. Geelong versus North Melbourne. Geelong, A. Buse, 1 vote. North Melbourne, P. German, 2 votes. Geelong, P. Couch, 3 votes. Melbourne versus St Kilda. St Kilda, K. Sheldon, 1 vote. St Kilda, R. Harvey, 2 votes. St Kilda, N. Winmar, 3 votes. West Coast versus Carlton. West Coast, G. Miles, 1 vote. West Coast, P. Sumich, 2 votes. West Coast, S. Jackson, 3 votes.
The final round of home and away matches proved to be somewhat of an anticlimax, with the final 5 well and truly settled. But it didn't stop the Brisbane Bears. They hammered Carlton by 35 points, and Brad Hardy starred with 7 goals. Essendon warmed up for the finals with a 19-point win over Melbourne. Likewise, Geelong, who romped away from Richmond. Brian Taylor returned to the Collingwood lineup and booted 5 goals as the Magpies easily accounted for the Eagles to the tune of 49 points. But it was reigning premiers Hawthorn who kicked the sweep, and Jason Dunstall led the way. Dunstall booted 11 to take his season's tally to 128 as the Hawks thrashed St Kilda by 90 points.
Round 22. North Melbourne versus Sydney. Sydney, M. Parsons, 1 vote. Sydney, M. Neagle, 2 votes. Sydney, G. Williams, 3 votes. Hawthorn versus St Kilda. Hawthorn, J. Platten, 1 vote. Hawthorn, J. Dunstall, 2 votes. Hawthorn D. Pritchard, 3 votes. Melbourne versus Essendon. Essendon M. Long, 1 vote. Essendon K. Walsh, 2 votes. Essendon G. Anderson, 3 votes. Fitzroy versus Footscray. Fitzroy D. Kapler, 1 vote. Footscray T. Wallace, 2 votes. Fitzroy B. Stevens, 3 votes. Geelong versus Richmond. Geelong M. Bairstow, 1 vote. Geelong D. Morgan, 2 votes. Geelong N. Bruns, 3 votes. Collingwood versus West Coast. Collingwood S. Morwood, 1 vote. West Coast C. Mainwaring, 2 votes. Collingwood G. Brown, 3 votes. Brisbane versus Carlton. Brisbane A. Taylor, 1 vote. Carlton J. Madden, 2 votes. Brisbane M. Zanotti, 3 votes.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the counting, and as I think most of you have realised, the winner of the Brownlow for 1989 is Paul Couch. We'd like the winner to come to the stage to be presented with the Brownlow Medal by the Chairman of the VFL Commission, Mr. Ross Oakley. To make the official presentation now, the Brownlow Medal for 1989, it's my pleasure once again to introduce the Chairman of the VFL Commission, Mr. Ross Oakley, to present it to Paul Couch of Geelong.
Thanks, Peter. Well, Paul, Geelong's had a marvellous year. Broken so many records during the year with the way they've played their football, and now they've ended up with the ultimate, playing in on a grand final day. But you, well, personally, this must be a great delight to you. You've had a marvellous year, and what better way to wear the Brownlow Medal than to wear it with a side that's heading into a grand final. Well done, and you're a very worthy winner.
Well, congratulations. It looked easy, but I guess it was pretty tense down at that table.
Yeah, I was a bit shaky.
Just a little?
Yeah, just a little bit shaky, yeah.
A bit different to riding the cart down at Geelong, is it?
Yeah, it's a bit different. It's good.
Paul, I guess you read the papers and you listen to the radio, you watch TV. Everybody had given you a pretty good sort of a chance. In your own mind, how did you feel you were going to poll?
I thought I'd go all right. I didn't think that I'd win it. I thought I'd have a good chance. I thought Timmy and Watson and Jason would go pretty well.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty wrapped that I won it.
I'll bet you're right. If you were paying tribute to somebody, do you think that Malcolm's coaching has brought out the best in you, things that you didn't think you could produce last year?
Yeah, Malcolm's been great. He's been a great coach to all of us, and to come from ninth to play in the grand final this week, it's a great effort, and he's helped me a great deal. You know, giving me confidence, and you know, I thank him a lot. And Tommy Hafey too was great. He gave me the first opportunity to play league footy, but Malcolm's helped me out, and he's great understanding of the game. Really helped me during the year.
What about Mark Bairstow? Did you have a little chat to him? Who did you think was going to poll better?
We just thought that.
You didn't have any side wages, did you?
No, we didn't have any side wages. We thought, that we'd poll all the Geelong players, and it's good to see because it's all 20, 25 players out there, and they're all good blokes. And just hope we go well this week.
I guess this would be the highlight of your football career. Would you like to thank anybody apart from Malcolm and Tommy Hafey?
Yeah, I would. Thanks, Peter.
Go ahead.
I'd like to thank my wife first, Geraldine, Meg, and my little boy Thomas is at home asleep at the moment. He's been a great delight to me. He's probably very relaxing. Thomas, he's a great little kid. And my parents at home are probably flipping their lids at the moment. And the boys down home at the Boggy Creek pub are watching at the moment.
Where's that?
Boggy Creek pub.
Boggy Creek?
Yeah, they're down there having a few beers. And they'll be nice and relaxed. They'll be jumping all over the place. But my parents and my boss at work's been really good, understanding during the year. And to a bloke, Dennis McMurray, should be pretty happy this moment. He got me a 330 to 1 at the start of the year, and he had $30 on it, so he's going all right. He's probably racing up the car now, saying, "You Fuchsie." So he's a pretty happy man too. But I like to thank a lot of people that, out through the year who've been really good to me, and especially Malcolm, who's, brought the best out in all the players this year, and see how we go this week.
Just one thing before you go. Brownlow medalists get put on a little bit of a pedestal, and you're the first Brownlow medalist at Geelong since Alistair Lord. You're in pretty illustrious company. How do you feel about being a Brownlow winner?
Well, it's a bit of a shock, actually, because just being from down home, just, watching greats like Keith Gregg and Malcolm Blight play, and, Bruce Still and, Alex Jeslinko, I was a big fan of theirs, and, to be up here now is, it's just a dream. And, I'm just happy to be here.
What sort of impetus do you think this might give to the side for Saturday?
Oh, well, individual awards are good, but I think the boys will be quite happy for me, and, we'll do our best on this Saturday.
When you came down to Geelong, was it from Boggy Creek? Whereabouts is Boggy Creek, by the way?
Oh, it's down Peterborough way.
Is it?
Yeah, Port Campbell way. It's not too far. It's pretty hard to explain. It's down the down the Western District. It is. It's not a bad place, actually.
Did you ever, I guess it is. We've put it on the map, haven't we?
Yeah, yeah.
When you came from there, did you ever give yourself a chance of, winning a Brownlow? I guess it was in...
I was happy to get a game. Just when I first got down there, I thought I'd be happy to, probably play in the reserves and, hopefully get a game during the year. But Tommy was really good, and I'd like to thank him a lot because he was really good to me at the start of the, started when I first started my league footy, and he was great, and he gave me my first chance, and I thank him a lot.
Well, it's been a great effort tonight. Paul, congratulations. A very worthy winner, I might say, of the '89 Brownlow Medal, and maybe wish you and the side the very best of luck for Saturday. And there's only one thing left, and that's the toast, Ross.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you be upstanding, and we'll toast the 1989 Brownlow Medal. Ball couch. Three cheers. Hip. Hip. Hip.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Ross. Paul Couch, the winner of the 1989 Brownlow Medal, ladies and gentlemen. We'll take a break, and we'll check the final voting in just a moment.
Wednesday night, Dad's bored.
Louis the Fly on Louis the Fly. Rummaged into you.
So he takes up painting bowls of fruit.
You just need a little more work on the bananas.
Nudge.
Hey, Dad. Then the guys from Wogs Out of Work have money troubles.
I got axe, I get the shovel.
Current coach Malcolm Blight. Malcolm, I thought we'd ask you up here. Everything seems to be falling into place for the Cats in grand final week so far.
Yeah, so far it's been terrific, really. Yeah, the Bulls had a marvellous season, and also we're obviously playing a great opposition this week, and yeah, it'll be nice to just keep the whole thing going.
What has made the difference at Geelong? Not so much just over the final series, but in the last few weeks, the ball started to roll.
Yes, we've really had a pretty good year. We had a bit of a downer towards the year, but I think that Essendon loss just woke a few people up. And from then, we, just resurrected the whole thing, and it's been terrific since then.
How did yourself expect Paul to go? If somebody said to you before the Brownlow count, is Bairstow going to poll better than Couch or whatever, what were your thoughts?
Oh, no, they've both had very good seasons. Actually, Mark Bairstow polled in a number of games, just that Paul got the three voters. So, yeah, it's a great night for Geelong.
You've won a Brownlow yourself. What does it take to be a Brownlow medalist? Is it somebody spectacular, somebody in the play, somebody who doesn't backshot umpires, maybe all of them?
I think it's all those things. If you get the ball often enough, I think it helps.
Well, that too.
3-2 and 1. I mean, it's a bit difficult. And Johnny Platten's run second in a marvellous, consistent year again. And Yeah, it's just one of those things. It's one of those awards that the umpires vote for, and it really is the umpire's award.
When I spoke to you in 1978, I think it was,
Yes.
up here, were your thoughts basically the same as those of Paul? You earlier won a McGarry medalist, so I suppose you've been through it before.
Yeah, I suppose. We also had to play in a grand final the following Saturday with disastrous results, so perhaps I can learn from that and pass it on to Paul somehow.
Finally, Malcolm, how's the atmosphere down there this week? I guess they're coming out of the woodwork, would that be fair?
Yeah, it's been very busy around Geelong, and for the whole of the year, and especially in the final series, and in particular, well, it's Monday tonight, but it's been pretty busy down at Geelong.
Well, it's been a great night for you. It's been a tremendous night for Paul, and we wish you all the very best for the rest of the weekend on Saturday.
Thanks, Peter.
Thanks for talking to us. Malcolm Blight, the coach of Geelong, former McGarry, former Brownlow Medal winner. Paul Couch, of course, now doing media interviews, and I guess he's going to be a busy boy, not only for the remainder of tonight, but certainly for the remainder of the week. Let's check how your team polled in the Brownlow for 89, and as usual we begin with the Brisbane Bears, and one player up there who polled particularly well, Roger Merritt, with 14 votes from former Sandover medal winner David Bain. He had 11. Scott McIver finished on 10 votes, and Brad Hardy, another former Brownlow winner, had 4 votes. Brenton Phillips had 3. Mark Zanotti, former West Coast Eagle, finished up with 3 votes. That's how they polled in Brisbane. As we go to Carlton, and Carlton's best player in 89, according to the umpires, was Justin Madden with 11 votes. Mill Hanna polled well with captain Steve Kernahan. They both had 9. Craig Bradley 8, Mark Nailey 4, and Peter Dean 3. At Collingwood, Paul Hawke, 14 votes. Peter Dacos, one of the early leaders in the Brownlow, had 12. Gavin Brown on 9 votes. I guess you could say polled well, but not as well as certainly Magpie supporters would have expected. Doug Barwick had 8, Darren Mullane 5, Tony Shaw also had 5 votes. At Essendon, Tim Watson, rated one of the favourites for the Brownlow, finished up with 16. Greg Anderson had 9, and Michael Long, one of the draft choices at Essendon, one of the sensations of the year actually, finished up with 8 votes. From Essendon, we go to Fitzroy, and it was a tie there between Richard Osborne and Matthew Armstrong. They both had 9. Paul Roos had 8 votes, Brett Stevens 7, Wally Matera and Gary Pert each finished up with 4. From Fitzroy to Footscray, and again it was a tie. Doug Hawkins and Tony McGuinness had 9 votes. John Georgiades, a great start to the season. He polled those 6 votes very early from Atkins and Terry Wallace, who was again, I guess, expected to poll a little bit better than he did. Scotty Wine finished up with 3. From Footscray to Geelong, and Paul Couch, the Brownlow winner 89, 22 votes. From Hocking, who at one stage led the telecast and led the Brownlow with 12 votes. Mark Bairstow finished up with 11. Neville Bruns got 9. Gary Ablett and Andy Bewes 8 each. Hawthorn, John Platten, 2 votes off the pace, finished with 20. Jason Dunstall, one of the favourites, got 16, pretty close to what he got last year, I think, from memory. And Greg Deere got 11 votes from Collins, Pritchard and Tuck. To Melbourne, Steve Newport and Jimmy Steins both got 10, from Earl Spalding 8. From Melbourne, we go along to North Melbourne. Wayne Schwartz on 10. He got those votes fairly early in the season from Mark Arsieri and Brett Allison, Peter German all on 5. At Richmond, McKellar finished up with 10 from Honeybun and Bauer. At St Kilda, it was Winmar from Lockett, Lowe, Grant, Rice and Harding. Nicky Winmar, 16 votes, clearly the best for the Saints. The Sydney Swans, it was Greg Williams, a former Brownlow winner, a tearaway winner there with 16 votes. West Coast Eagles, Guy McKenna and Chris Mainwaring, who joined us tonight from the studios of TVW7. They were the leaders for the Eagles, from Phil Scott. And finally the leaderboard, let's check them. Paul Couch from John Platten, a 2-vote winner. Tim Watson finished with 16, and so did Nicky Winmar and Greg Williams with Jason Dunstall. Paul Hawke had 14, Roger Merritt also had 14. Guy McKenna 13, Peter Dacos 12, Hocking got 12, Deere, Bain, Bairstow and Madden all on 11. That's Justin Madden, and Tony Lockett finished up with 10 votes. And that just about takes us out from the Brownlow telecast of 1989. Paul Couch now looking a very relieved player, but congratulations to him, a 2-vote winner of the best and fairest in the VFL. He finished up with 22 votes from John Clatton. Don't forget, grand final day on Saturday begins with the North Melbourne breakfast, of course preceded by our all-night marathon. We have the telecast of the reserves game, the main game, our telecast officially starting at 2 o'clock. In the Australis room at the Southern Cross, Peter Landy on behalf of the Australian Television Network, a very good night to you all.
This has been a 7 Sport presentation for the Australian Television Network.
The Brownlow Medal count was proudly brought to you by the new Holden Apollo. Gillette, the best a man can get. CUB, one of the world's great brewers. BP, on the move. And State Bank, we never forget it's your money.